Hi everyone, I'm Diane Antone and welcome to my watercolour studio. Today we're going to paint a snowy fir tree scene using the wet in wet technique to create a loose underpainting. Then once this is dry we'll finish the painting with more controlled brushwork for the details. So let's get cracking. I didn't do a sketch for this painting, just indicated a horizon line on my sheet of paper, which is Hahnemuhle Extra Rough 230 gram. It's 18 by 12 centimetres, so quite a small size. First of all, I'll take my large round brush and wet the entire upper part of the paper above the horizon. Now I'm dropping in dilute Naples yellow at the horizon line, followed by a little dilute alizarin crimson, and lastly, at the top, ultramarine blue for the sky effect. I'm not going to do too much blending, as the water will carry the pigment around the paper, but I'm just going to encourage the paint down a little bit into the other two colours, and then we'll leave it alone. Next, I'm putting in some shapes for trees on the horizon in a darker green, which I hope will blend in the water on the top part of the painting. We'll see how that goes. I'm planning to have 2 pine trees in this scene, so let's draw in a trunk, just a straight line using a dark green, and just indicate roughly the branches of the tree, which will bleed into the wet sky behind it. Now the thing with wet in wet is that you have to be ready to alter your plans if things don't turn out quite the way you expected. And here I noticed that my tree line is far too dark for what I was hoping to achieve. So I'm trying a technique here of, rather than lifting out the paint that I've put down at the back there, I'm wetting now the bottom half of the painting and allowing that extra dark green to flow downwards and into the bottom half, where I'm going to need paint in any case. So this is now basically I'm wetting the lower half of the painting, encouraging the paint to flow downwards, and all the time evaluating where the painting is going to go, because as I said, I didn't have a sketch or any clear idea at the beginning of exactly what I was going to do. Moving on now to the second tree, which is going to be the main focal point of the painting. I'm drawing in, indicating the trunk here with dark green, which I think I was using Hooker's Green Dark here. Could have been sap green, could have been Winsor green. And I'm just indicating the branches very lightly while I evaluate where this is going to go. And now I've decided it's time to come in with some dark Winsor Violet, which is going to give me some of the shadow form for the for the tree. As you know, fir trees are basically conical in shape, and we're trying to depict a 3-dimensional object on a 2-dimensional sheet of paper. So the important thing is to get the shadows in, and one way of doing that is to put them in, or at least start them off at the very beginning. So I am indicating the darkest parts of the tree here using violet, and now I'm going to give the tree a shadow which will show where it's standing on the snow. And just finding out the shape of the tree to give it a little bit more of a typical fir tree shape. Evaluating the painting now, I am now going back in here to lift out the rather unsatisfactory green there, and I've made that distant tree much more distant. And now I'm going to go in and lift out the tree line on the horizon, which I wasn't happy with right from the start. The thing with wet in wet, or any painting really, is you have to be ready to change things as you go along if you find you've gone wrong. So I'm using the wet brush technique, thirsty brush, which is using a clean, rinsed out brush with no paint on it, just water, but you dry off most of the water on a towel or a sponge, so the brush acts like a little sponge itself, and you can lift out the paint that you've put in and get back to nearly white, nearly the original paper, quite effectively. It's a good way of controlling the paint when you're working wet in wet. We did that when we were painting the candle the other day to control the shape of the flame. So now I've got rid of those trees and we're going to let the painting dry for a few minutes. Switching to a smaller brush and Hooker's Green Dark now, I've begun to indicate the branches of the fir tree. Now we're working on dry paper, so wet on dry, and we're bringing in more details. And I'm going to work in a fairly random kind of way all the way down the tree, putting in the branches, getting wider as you go down from top to bottom, and the little branches near the top tend to be either horizontal or slightly pointing upwards, and as you go down they tend to droop a little bit, go off the horizontal and leaning down a little bit. And the main thing is to remember some of the branches are going to be coming towards you. They don't all go off to each side. Some of them are growing towards you. Again, the thing about three-dimensionality, you need to try to think about a cone rather than a triangle if you want to have anything remotely realistic rather than abstract. Not that there's anything wrong with an abstract Christmas tree, it has its place, but in this particular case we're trying to come somewhere towards, I would say, impressionistic realism. So not photorealism, but something that's clearly recognizable as a snow-covered fir tree. And this part can be, perhaps, you might think, a little bit tedious, but just take it as a meditation. You know, it's we don't always have to be finished. So there we are, we've got to the bottom of the tree now. And we are going to go back in with purple, which is the complement of green, of course. That's the colour that the shadows of green will cast, is a purpley shade, the complement. And adding those shadow areas in the middle of the tree where it's going to be darkest. Because when we come to put the snow on, we're going to try to put the snowy patches above those dark areas to give more of a solid impression. Now I'm just emphasizing, I'm going to emphasize the shadow of the tree on the snow underneath. This is a little bit of lilac. I think there's some gouache in there as well. It's a bit non-transparent. Now I'm going into the tree in the distance and putting some of its branches in, wet on dry. Give it a bit more form. Very random, very sketchy, nothing particularly detailed here, but just to give the impression because it's further away. And you can see the depth starting to be created in the painting. You can clearly see that that tree is further away. And now I've picked up a little bit of cobalt blue or ultramarine on my rigger brush here, and I'm kind of indicating some shadows in the distance because I had the feeling at that moment that perhaps that was a mountain in the distance. So I'm sort of trying out the idea of having a snowy mountain as my background. you'll see as we go on that that's an idea which I abandoned as we went on through the painting. Now it's time to start putting the snow on the tree. So I've mixed up some Winsor & Newton Designer's Gouache, which is a reasonably opaque white paint, and I'm just dashing that in fairly randomly as the first layer of snow. We'll probably have to come back and increase that because it does tend to dry less white than it appears when it's wet. And now I'm dropping in some spatter using my rigger again, just tapping the brush to create a snowy effect in the background. Most of these drops will disappear as they dry, but it does give a slightly more soft effect to the whole painting, which I quite like. A bit more work on the tree itself. And now I think it's time for a cup of tea, and I'm going to leave this thing and come back to it tomorrow and see whether I have any new brilliant ideas. So back to the painting. Now it's dry, it's not looking too bad. I could have stopped here, and there's always lots of points at which you could stop painting. One of the most difficult things about watercolour painting is knowing when to stop. And many a painting has been spoilt by going too far. I could add some blue here, as I'm doing with the ultramarine, and I could leave it at that. That's fine. It's actually quite a nice little painting. But I'm determined I'm going to try warming up the distance. So I'm dropping in some yellow ochre, which initially looks very strong, too strong probably, but it will blend. And as you watch it, you'll see that the yellow, I've changed the angle now, it's on a slight angle, about 20-30 degrees, to give the blue a bit of help as it starts to flow down. And I'm just intensifying the shadow under the tree at the moment, with a bit more blue and purple. You're watching me experimenting, basically, and learning from my own experiments. Just watching the blue moving down the paper into the yellow ochre at the back. The interesting thing about ultramarine and yellow ochre is, although it's blue and yellow, those two colours together do not tend to make green. They tend to make more of a grey, which is very useful for skies. It's a trick that's often used in sky painting, to put yellow ochre or Naples yellow close to the horizon and then bring your blue wash down towards the horizon. Where they meet, you do not get green, you get grey. And many painters use that trick. It's a typical trick. I learnt that, well, I don't know if you can call it a trick, but I learnt it from Ron Ranson. He was a great exponent of that, and David Bellamy as well. Now I'm coming in with some white gouache again to increase the opacity of the snow on the tree. People talk about leaving the white when you want the white to stay, but for a tree like this, that's practically impossible. It's not something that I feel is suitable practice for a beginner. So we are going to stick with the tried and tested technique of adding white gouache to represent the snow. Trying to get the idea of three-dimensionality again, with the foreshortening of the clumps of snow which are coming towards you. This can be tricky, and you might need to play with this for quite a long time before you get it right. Note that this is a very, very small painting. This is not even 6 by 8, it's more like 5 by 7. And I'm trying to get quite a lot of detail into a very small space, which is not something that is necessarily all that easy. Little few dabs of snow on the tree in the distance. And I want to link those two trees, because two trees just standing in the middle of a snowy field is not really, I don't know, it needs something else. I could put a figure in there, or I could do various things, but to keep it simple and more in keeping with the idea of a snowy forest, let's just drop in a few more trees on the horizon. It's still damp there, so I'm going wet into wet again. And now darkening the shadows under the snow, again helping with the 3D effect. Remember that your darks always dry lighter than they appear when you first put them on. They always dry lighter, so you have to always bear in mind that you need to go darker than you want it to end up. And that judgment takes a while to develop. Different paints have also different amounts of variation in how they dry. So now just shaping up these trees by a thirsty brush, lifting out a little bit of the paint just to give the effect of trees at different heights. And now I think I'm running out of ideas. I'm going to stop this painting soon. One or two adjustments here. Let's indicate some snow where it touches the floor, the ground. And now I'm going to create a snowstorm using my gouache and a brush, quite liquid gouache. These are fairly big droplets, which will, because it's still wet underneath, this will bleed in and fade down to give a random effect in the sky. The toothbrush gives a much finer spray, which is also very effective. I think we're starting to get the effect of a winter's day, late evening, with violet shadows and a yellowish sky that looks as if it's got more snow to drop. So that's it, we're finished, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a happy 2021. See you again soon. Don't forget to like and follow my channel for more of this in the next coming year. Bye everyone.